Okay, stop staring at me. Don't stare at me. That's you're very close to the I do not like it if you are looking at me like, you're just, okay. Now you're in my no-no zone.
It's time.
Okay.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory,
Hi,
where
MatPat.
good things, or at least FNAF things, come to those who wait.
Damn right.
And man, when it comes to this game series, no one was waiting for anything. I mean, the second game came out 3 months after the first. The trailer for the third was 2 months later, and like 4 minutes after that, the game was available to download. So forgive me if I was caught with my pants down on that one. I just wasn't prepared for it. But even more impressive than that abbreviated timeline was your ability to rip that final game apart. Hours after the release of the game, people
are
were
so
discussing
fast.
good versus bad endings, 8-bit Atari cake,
so
glitching through walls, and punching a flipping code into
again, that one is just
arranged
crazy to
like
me.
a telephone
Like, there was,
dial
I don't think there was any
In
clue
regards
was
to that
there
last one, I have
for
two
anyone
things
to click
say.
that.
First off,
I
well
don't
done
think
to
there
you
was.
guys for
If there
figuring
was,
it out
I'd
so
be
quickly.
way
And
too
secondly, Scott, seriously, Scott? Oh look, here's a wall. Let me just dial in my phone number. Beep boop boop beep boop boop. What?
Yeah.
When did we jump
It's
from
way
a
too
point-and-click
bizarre.
horror game to
It's way
magical
too bizarre.
fantasy?
The final
This thing
game,
is like
yeah.
platform 9 3/4.
The final
I expect
game, he
Harry
said.
effing
Oh my
Potter
God.
to
It's
operate
the
into
final game
Pirate's
chat.
Cove or something.
There's no way it could
Jeez,
have
Here
more
I was
games,
thinking that
right?
you plug your numbers into the one other place that you see
Yeah.
numbers in this
The final
game,
game.
the bonus jump scare menu, or something, anything. But nope, dialing it into a wall makes so much more sense. Okay. Sorry, just needed to get that one off my chest. Moving on. Now, with 15 days at Freddy's under our belts and a few overtime hours clocked in for good measure, we have ourselves a completed video game trilogy, with the third game giving us more jump scares, more phone guy, and more fan. But this game also contains the final clues we need to get some closure on this game's deviously vague story. Scotty C certainly didn't make things any easier for us, but at this point I think we finally have enough puzzle pieces scattered across the 3 games to assemble a fairly accurate picture of this franchise's lore. Since you guys had a, let's just say, above average interest in this theory, I wanted to create something that answered as many questions as possible about this franchise. But beyond just the details, the question we all want an answer to is, what exactly happened in the story throughout this series? It's a pretty fundamental question to not have an answer to, and yet, despite thousands of videos, forum entries, and Tumblr posts, put that away, you behave yourself. This game is already scary enough without you sticking your hook somewhere it doesn't belong, okay? Despite all those things, we still don't have a clear picture on the details. Yes, there's a child killer on the loose, the infamous purple guy, who's been using Fazbear pizzerias as his hunting ground of choice for years.
Hunting
but
ground
going into
of
the
choice.
third game, we still weren't sure about
like
who
a
this
hunter
guy
having
was,
to,
or
like,
even
I
how
don't
many
know,
victims
find
he'd
you or
officially
something.
taken. Then there are the animatronics. Sure, we generally understand that the killer's dead bodies have been stuffed into some of the suits, and that with the help of the puppet, the kids were able to find new life in those robotic bodies. But then, what about Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, who randomly appeared
I don't think
in
those
FNAF
ever
2,
showed up
only
again,
to
did
become
they?
prominent figures throughout Part 3? How do they fit in? What about the ghostly Golden Freddy? Someone we've been talking about since the first game, and yet we still don't really know anything about him. Well, now that we finally have all the facts, I think it's time we revisit my timeline I presented in the last episode to see what I got right, what I got wrong. Yes, you heard that. Wrong. No shame. I'm a big boy. Mommy, wow, I'm a big kid now. And finally fill in the missing details to create what I believe to be my definitive Five Nights theory.
Because his mic is getting
boy,
better, I'm gonna have to lower
howdy,
it
it is
a little
a
bit.
doozy. So strap in, theorists. You wanted it. You're about to get it. Overall, the timeline of the franchise I presented in the last video still holds strong. Decades before the name became a horror legend meriting its own theme park-style attraction, Freddy Fazbear got his start at Fredbear
We're
Family
back at the diner,
It's here where our
boys.
story begins as Purple Guy
We're
takes
back
his
to the first,
victim, something we see in the
first
Take
shillings.
game from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. What tells us that this is Fredbear's and first in the timeline? Well, as I said last time, in addition to it being a small space,
I don't think it's a
the only
cupcake.
character
It
we
says
see is
cake
Freddy,
to the
whereas
game,
all
so
other
I-
mini-games
you know.
feature multiple animatronics. He's also holding a cupcake. Since that would later become Chica's signature item, the event depicted in this game must have come before she was created.
I'll take 5
Additionally,
shillings.
notice that the purple guy's murder
have
takes
5
place
shillings right now,
outside
but,
the building. This
there's
is
1
the
shilling
only
right
time
there.
we see him murder someone
you know what I'm
outside
saying.
the
Actually,
walls
there's
of
more
a
than 1
Fazbear
shilling. It's,
building, which implies that this
it's
is
a lot of
likely his
shillings
first
that
victim.
this game
Serial
has.
killers often have what's
Way
known as a
many
signature,
Yeah.
a way of killing that's unique to him and him alone. For Purple Guy, his signature is dressing in an animatronic costume, then luring children to the back of the pizzeria and killing them there. But this murder occurs before he developed this particular style, implying that it's the first. From there, we know that the puppet jump scare that always follows this minigame, combined
wonder if
with
I'm
the
gonna
tier
sleep
design
well
on both
today.
the dead child
Just
and
a
the
question.
puppet's mask,
Will I sleep
implies
well
that
today
the
after
soul of the
watching all of
first
these?
child
With
now
my-
exists
with my
in
mind
the
and
puppet.
dreams
The event caused the
be
original owners
just
to sell the
FNAF
Fredbear
till the
name, who
day I
then
win.
rebranded and
Day I
avoided the
win.
negative PR, becoming
Why does it
what
say
we
the
know
day I win?
today as
If I wake up
Fazbear
tomorrow, not if-
Entertainment.
it's-
They
it's
then
not-
opened
why
a
did I
new
say
chain
if?
of
No, I'm gonna wake up-
restaurants, which
I'm
we
gonna
never
wake up.
saw in the
What am I
games
talking about?
until the release of Five Nights 3. This is not Fredbear Diner like
Hey!
many interpret, but rather the first location of
It's-
Freddy
it's
Fazbear's
Freddy and
Pizza,
Bonnie,
predating
the
the events of
besties.
Five Nights at Freddy's
At least that's
2.
what
How do we
historians
know?
say.
Well, by paying close attention to the old recordings of Phone Guy dug up in FNAF 3, he introduces us to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Diner, before explaining the functionality of the special spring lock suits.
Welcome
Oh, yeah,
to the
we're
new
still
career
getting
of a
the
performer
news-
slash entertainer
news from
for
the-
Freddy Fazbear's
Yeah,
Pizza. Right
Phone
now,
Guy.
we have two
I think it's still
specially designed
technically
suits that
agreed
double
here that
as
Phone
both
Guy is
animatronic
equals
and
Purple
suit.
Guy.
He also lets us know that the animatronics are still allowed to walk around freely during the day, meaning that this is happening before the bite of 87, in which an animatronic bites someone during business hours, removing their frontal lobe and resulting in the animatronics being restricted to moving around only at night.
For ease of operation, the animatronics are set to turn and walk towards sound machines.
As Phone Guy informs us, and as we see in the Stage 01 minigame, there are two specialty suits, a Golden Bonnie suit
Those are
and
the ones that,
origins
like,
of the infamous
can be
Golden
used by
Freddy. But the
people,
lifespan
right?
of these springlock suits is
They can
actually
take out the spring
short-lived,
locks,
as we learn
or
about their
are
one
the spring
fatal
locks
flaw.
connected?
After learning of an unfortunate
I could be wrong.
incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees.
well, there-
The
yep, there he
classic
goes.
suits are
Okay.
being retired to an appropriate location.
Now, let's pause here. Two employees are killed by the failure of a Bonnie suit and a Freddy suit. Where else in the game do we see Bonnie
Oh,
and
wait,
Freddy
yeah.
sharing a unique feature that no
So,
one else in
was
the game
the- was the
possesses?
spring
Shadow
lock
Freddy
still
and Shadow
technically
Bonnie.
on
Could this
the
be
thing?
the
I thought
origin
that
of
you
the
can take off the
paranormal
spring
Shadow
lock so you can
suits?
wear the
Yes, actually.
Isn't that what's
Shadow
supposed to
Freddy
be
and
it?
Shadow Bonnie are tied to the ghosts of the employees who died
Or
in the
did
spring
Purple
suits.
Guy
Get
just
this, the
forgot?
employees' bodies were taken out of the suits, which is why their appearance is more paranormal and why they can't possess them as well as the children can. Plus, having this as their origin would explain the in-game behavior of both suits. In FNAF 3, we see that Purple Guy hides in a secret safe room that has been built into every pizzeria. A room that's hidden to customers and invisible to the animatronics programming.
no
During the
employee
minigames
even
that occur
check that?
between
Or
nights,
were
we
they
see
just
Shadow
following the
Freddy
code
lead
of,
the
like,
other animatronics
hey,
to the secret room, only to cause them to
you
glitch
don't go
out
in
and
there.
get torn apart by
Trust
Purple
me.
Guy. This supernatural
I would
origin
be that
story is how
employee
Shadow
that would
Freddy is
go in
able to
there.
enter the safe
But if I
room
died,
when
then
other
I
animatronics
guess I
can't.
wouldn't
How he's able to
anyone-
lead
I
you
would
to that
probably
room in the
just-
first place
You'd probably
when
just
other
say that,
animatronics
like,
wouldn't
oh, I got
be
into an
able to
accident,
see it
and
based on
just,
their
died on
programming,
sight.
and even why he leads you there, knowing that Purple Guy attacking you will eventually free your soul. That's also why there's no Purple Freddy suit when you do finally enter that room. It's not an alternate Purple Guy costume like many believe, it's an apparition.
It was so
Suck on
funny
that,
to
Harry
me
Potter.
that
I
he
knew
was-
someone
he was
would
scared of
apparate
children's
eventually.
jokes.
It also explains why Shadow
so
Bonnie's
paranoid. I know
minigame in
why he was
FNAF 3
paranoid on
always starts on
like,
stage
children's jokes.
01.
He's
the
techni-
spring
I don't think the
suits,
children
and why
can
it's the
hurt him
one
'cause he,
animatronic
like,
we control
broke
that
the
has the
suit,
ghostly
so they
ability
can't
to
attack
glitch,
him?
fly,
I-
and teleport.
so
As
why
we
would he-
concluded
why was he
last episode,
scared?
this is
I
also the point in the
don't
timeline
understand.
of the first missing children's incident, the one we learn about via newspaper clippings in Five Nights
Springs
1.
hold them
So, based
inside,
on the
but
newspaper
Springs,
clipping evidence we
fair,
have, we know
you
that the
get the
mob
rest. Oh,
murderer
okay.
dressed in one of the suits
Thank you
lured
for that.
children to a back room and
I
killed
need
them.
that
He's
information.
starting to develop his signature. But one nagging detail FNAF theorists have been wondering is what suit does he use for his disguise? The
Golden
answer?
Bonnie.
Golden Bonnie. Why? Well, remember or the phone guy saying the faulty suits were being retired to an appropriate location. There's a
Well,
high
it doesn't take
likelihood
a
they're
nice
being
time to
stored in
find
one of
that
the
one.
safe rooms in the
Like,
restaurants.
literally
Plus,
used the
we
gold.
hear in FNAF 2 that
You
the
went
purple
into the
guy
golden
has a
one
habit
too,
of
that was,
using
like,
a
the last
yellow
section of
suit.
that,
We had a spare in the back.
Him
The yellow
scared
one.
the ghosts.
Someone used it.
But why not Golden Freddy? Phone guy tells us so at the beginning of Night 5 in FNAF 3.
Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved.
My, what an oddly specific detail to include, Scott Cawthon. And remember, these tapes that play in FNAF 3 date all the way back to the first pizzeria location, which is why this detail is so important. It reflects Purple Guy starting
I
to
forgot
develop
that,
his
like, these are
signature killing
pre-recorded
pattern.
tapes.
From there, we know the rest of the
So
story. Purple Guy kills the kids, stuffs the
phone
bodies
guy
into the suits to
was-
hide them, but as we read the paper, is
was
caught on
not
camera and
technically
arrested.
working
Meanwhile, the
with
puppet
them.
gives life to the children, and the
Listening to
angry
old
spirits
tapes.
possess the robots. Or is that really how it goes? Let's go back to the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame. The
God,
children
we're
are
going back to
lying
here
there
for a
dead, and
long
the
time
puppet
in
first
these
tries to give
videos.
them presents.
Unless
Weird,
we're,
right?
like,
Weird until you consider that his place
we
is at
stop
the
with the giving
prize
gifts,
corner.
giving life
Giving
thing.
presents is the only thing he
It's a
knows that
real
can make
simple-
children happy.
I
It's a
think-
reflex. Remember, this is still a child's spirit in this puppet.
been a
But
long
when
time
that
since I
doesn't
reacted
work,
to
the
some
puppet
of
goes
these
around
videos.
one more time and
I feel
does
like
the
my mom's
only other
having a
thing it
field
can
day
think
with just
of.
having to
Put the
rewatch
bodies
these
into
old
the
FNAF 3
suits.
videos.
You heard that
I know
right.
one of my
In trying
mods
to save the
is, like,
children, he's the one
willing to,
hiding
like,
them
watch
in the
these from
animatronic
again.
suits.
I
Not the
think
killer like
it's
we've been assuming.
Freddy?
But then what about the fifth child,
right?
as there's only 4 here? Well, as we pointed out
Realistically,
last
right?
time, the fifth child is there too, appearing at the very end of the minigame and taking the role of Golden Freddy. But remember, Golden Freddy is a decommissioned spring-lock suit
he doesn't
at
have
this
spring
point,
locks, so
deemed
he's
too
technically
unsafe to
just-
be functional. The reason he's slumped over and can't move like the
just dead.
rest is that his endoskeleton has been taken out. He's in suit mode, not free roaming mode. He physically doesn't have the mechanisms in place to
he
stand
has
up and
eyes behind
move.
them.
Possessed or no,
Dead
a
signs.
dead child's spirit just can't give a boneless suit the ability to stand. This also explains the lone naked
love how, like, Bonnie was
endoskeleton
just
that
looking at the
appears
camera.
occasionally in both Five Nights 2 and Five Nights 1. An endoskeleton that once belonged to Golden Freddy. Whew. I know I made you wait for this one, so I knew I had to make it count.
It's just a
Heck,
part
if
one.
there ain't a lot to cover.
Yeah,
Still with
getting
me?
there.
Good, because we're ready for our next location. You see, since the puppet hid the bodies, no one knows they're in the suits until they start oozing and smelling, which, as we see in the papers, eventually gets the place shut down for health violations. The company tries to recover from, quote, the tragedy that took place there many years ago, but can't, and eventually is forced to shut its doors for good. This leads to the trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Finally, we're actually going to talk about a game in the series. Seriously, can you believe we've been going this whole time
Yeah,
on
we were just
locations that
talking
aren't
about the
even
diner,
settings for the
aren't we?
3 main
the heck?
games? That is why this lore is so challenging, but also
Remember back when
so
everyone
interesting.
believed that
Anyway,
Carly
forgotten,
was Silver
dismantled,
Green?
deactivated.
Yeah.
These are the words you see at the
I-
beginning
I
of the
think until
trailer.
Silver
Back when the
Eyes,
debate about
that's
whether
when
this
everyone
game
was
was a
like,
sequel or a
"Oh,
prequel to the first game, these
you're
words
a
made it seem like a
girl."
follow-up, that everything had been shut down since the first game,
Yeah,
but
and
it
it connects
wasn't.
to, like,
These
the-
words are a
the
reference to the
original
business
game.
being closed down after that first missing children's incident. That's
Zeus
why
was a
posters
man.
everywhere in
Yes,
Five
I am a
Nights
man
2 are all about the
Look at my
brand
voice,
new
sad.
Fazbear Pizza.
By
It's the
the
grand
end,
reopening
Pharaoh
after years
was
of
for
being
him, I
out
would
of
have not
business.
known
That's
him was
also
sad.
why the new
I
toy
will now take
animatronics
that
have
as
built-in facial recognition
Kindly,
software to a
thank
criminal
you.
database. They need to be careful to prevent another incident,
I-
but as we know,
I see
it
my
doesn't
massive
work.
identity.
As we see in the Save Them minigame, 5 more children get killed in this new location. We know
Every
it's the
location,
new
it's
location
always
because
5.
the minigame map's layout
guess just an
perfectly
extra. I
matches
guess
this
it's an
new
extra
Fazbear business. We also know it couldn't have happened earlier in the timeline, as both the old animatronics and new toy robots are presented in the game. But this time, the puppet's
I think so.
solution
I think
isn't
follow-up,
saving the
follow-up.
kids, it's stopping the killer. He enlists the help of Freddy to try and SAVETHEM,
Yeah,
leading the
I
bear
think it
to
was
the
both.
killer's location.
It was both.
Except Purple
I think
Guy came
before, I
prepared,
remember,
equipped with not a phone,
saying
but
that,
rather
like, the
something to help
books
him
weren't
tamper with the
exactly
animatronics.
canon with the
He
games
knows that something
until
fishy is
it
going on with
started
these
becoming
robots
canon with
because
the
he's been
games.
watching,
So what he said
studying.
before
The
was thrown
puppet
out the
wants
fucking
Freddy
window.
to save them, to which the killer's answer is only this: you can't. So how did the purple guy
Well,
manage it when he had been
Serial
caught
Unalived
years
has said that as
before?
well.
What about about the bite of
True.
87? How do FNAF 1 and 3
Having to
fit
watch
in?
a lot
And
of
most
unsolved,
importantly of all,
BuzzFeed
who
videos. I
is the purple guy?
I love watching
All
like
that
documentaries.
next week.
Especially, like,
Don't
BuzzFeed
worry,
and stuff. As
I'll
long as
come
someone
back.
is
I
commentating,
always
like, very,
do.
very, like,
In the meantime, it's all
entertainingly,
just
then I
a
will.
theory. A game
reason why I
theory.
watch, like, Riot
Thanks
Games.
for watching.
I was not dumb
Make sure
scared
you
of a
don't miss
manly
part 2
man.
by
I
clicking
remember that.
subscribe. Well, honestly,
I
you
did
still
remember
might miss
that.
it. The subscribe button is